One of the biggest improvements that Georgia has to make this upcoming season, I think, is pretty clear. Kirby Smart knows it. I know it. You know it. Everyone knows it, okay? Georgia has to get better in the trenches. They have to have a more physical element on both the offensive and defensive line. Kirby Smart spoke a lot about that last week. It's a promising group. And, we're going to start with the offensive line because there's a lot of reasons for their disappointment last year, right? It was a veteran-led, NFL-talented group, obviously, with a lot of those guys off to the NFL. It should have been better than what it was. They could not run the football. We're going to talk about that in today's video. They ranked 14th in the SEC in total rushing yards and were 15th in the conference in rushing yards per game with just 124 yards per game. So that's a group that has to get better. He knows it. Kirby Smart, when asked about both the offensive and defensive line, this is what he had to say last week. He said, I want to see improvement. So a lot of coach speak, obviously, but he did have a lot of really interesting things to say. He said, I want to see experience. I want to see depth building. We're talking about it in our meetings about what the standard is in Georgia in terms of it's not the number of runs that they have to make as far as it is the efficiency of the runs. He was talking about the offensive line there. He said it doesn't have to be completely balanced. You obviously want to be balanced, but it's about efficient runs and running in clutch situations, explosive runs when you can get them, but just being efficient. And that starts up front with the offensive line, knowing what they're doing. Staying healthy is key. They could not stay healthy at all last year. They were mixing and matching guys all over the place. But at the end of the day, you look at the numbers, you look at, a reason why they lost to Notre Dame and Ole Miss, and in a lot of ways, Alabama, and, had some knife fights, tough games throughout last season. It's because the offensive line play was not elite. There is a standard there. They didn't uphold it. And, and Kirby knows at the end of the day, you have to impose your will. That's something they talk about all the time. He said, our best team since we've been here, they've been able to run the ball when they have to run it. They've been able to stop the run when they have to stop it. And that looks different in every game. But at the end of the day, it's a line of scrimmage game. He knows it, and they have to get better on both sides. So we'll see where things go on the offensive line as far as that right guard position. But you do bring back a lot of experience all over the place. And it is another veteran-led group. Drew Bobo's been around this is year 4 for him. Micah Morris, year 5. Monroe Freeling, your left tackle, year 3. Ernest Green, year 4. And then you've got a possible young guy or a guy like Daniel Calhoun in his second year holding down that right guard spot. But, what you're going to get there is size. And Stacey Searles, he goes out and he gets big physical guys. It's a large group. Once again, they have to be able to run the ball when they need to. And they did that with Zamir White and James Cook. And they did it with Kenny McIntosh. And they did it to a certain extent with Kendall Milton. And obviously in previous years, Sony and Nick were different animals. Those are different guys. They could do anything asked of them to in the run game, even make up for a disappointing offensive line. They couldn't do it last year. Obviously, they can win the SEC with the group they have right now. I mean, they don't have to get a whole lot better. They could still win the conference as they did last year when they went backwards on the OL and on the defensive line. But if you want to win it all, which is the goal to win the last game of the season, you have to be able to run it when you have to, when the entire stadium knows you're going to run it, when the defense knows exactly, I say exactly, they know what you're doing. They know what's coming, and you can still run it, and you can still punch them in the mouth. Those old Georgia teams are able to do that, and Kirby Smart wants, he knows that if they want to win their ultimate goal, you have to be able to move people and move them backwards and move them this way and move them that way. Efficiency is what it's all about, because these backs can run and they can break tackles. They are big guys. Some of them can bring some explosivity there. But the offensive, it starts there. Georgia has the potential to have a really good offense, but it does start, obviously, the quarterback's the most important, but he still needs time to do what he does best. And if they don't run the ball, we're going to be talking about the same issue next year. A lot of this is coaching. A lot of it's on the players. It's everyone right now. It's the install. It's the preparation. It's doing it. That's what needs to get done. On the defensive side, they were good last year. They weren't a game-changing crew. I don't think they lived up to the standard of other Georgia defensive lines, and now they're replacing several guys. Michael Williams, Tyron Ingram, Dawkins, Warren Brinson. So there's a lot of snaps there to be had. And Kirby Smart continues to say over and over, we are a young team. Everyone remember, we are a young team. But there's so much young talent on defense there. And again, you have to compare this team to the championship teams because it's in its recent memory, right? There's no dust on those titles. It's what Georgia kind of just did. And you look and they dominated in the line of scrimmage, especially on the defensive line. If you're allowing guys to run on you, you're not. It's hard to win. Maybe you win the conference again, but they were 8th in the conference in yards per rush given up, or rushing yards per game given up. They gave up just 124 yards on the ground. So I think that no, they gave up 129, which was 8th in the SEC. So they're right there. And Notre Dame couldn't really run on them. Alabama ran on because of Jalen Miller. We don't have to go back and rehash it, but the guy that Kirby Smart wants to see step up as a leader there is Christian Miller, a guy that we've been talking about for a while. He's in that 2022 class. Made an impact last year. I don't think he's ever been completely, fully healthy, ready to go, but it starts with him. Here's what Kirby had to say about Christian Miller. He said, we need him to be a playmaker, right? He's been a leader. He's been a guy you can depend on in certain situations, but they need him to be a playmaker. We need him to be disruptive. We talk about that habit. We talk about quickness, speed, experience. He's our most experienced player there. He's taken on this role of knowing the burden lies with him to set a standard for that group. And we're going to be good up front, and we're going to stop the run. And it starts with that group. The mentality in that room. And so far, he has approached it the right way. We do not get to go through spring because of a labor repair. And my reading's awful. My reading's awful right now. You can read it all over on dawgpost.com for free, by the way. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. We got a great deal. A lot of free stories like this one where you can read faster yourself. It's not, me. He said a lot. He said a lot about Christian Miller because he's exactly right. That is the senior, the guy who has won a championship. There aren't many on this team that were still around 3 years ago for that 22 team. Those guys are in their 4th year now. Oscar Delp, Kristen Miller, for sure on the defensive line. A lot of young talent. We've talked about those guys: Jordan Thomas, Nazir Johnson, Dawg Boko, Justin Green, Elijah Griffin, the freshman. But it's going to be him, Xavier McLeod, and Jordan Hall, Kristen Miller. Those are the 3 that are probably going to be your starters, I'd say. And then with the rest of the group trying to earn their spot or be that next guy in, they're going to rotate. They're going to see a lot of defensive linemen. I say they already know. I'm saying you, the Georgia fans, are going to learn a lot of names on the defensive line because it's a young, talented group. Elijah Griffin will see some time at some point. I think everything I hear about that young man is that he's doing everything the right way. He is incredibly gifted, very talented kid. There's living up to his lofty high school ranking so far. So, but they've got to get better. Kirby Smart knows it. Georgia's a team that probably since 2017, they've had one of the best offensive lines in the country year in and year out. The defensive line was really good early in his day, but it really turned up a level at 21 and 22 season. But they were all outstanding in 17. He's got to get back to that, getting those game changers in there on the defensive line and getting those elite offensive tackles for the offense. And those are kind of just consistent guys that you can depend on year after year. Monroe Freeling, they're hoping that's the guy at left tackle. Ernest Green brings a lot of experience at right tackle. But Kirby Smart made he left no doubts. When you say to a room full of reporters, hey, we have to get better there, I want to see improvement. He says it about everyone, but I know that he means it in a different way, talking about these two groups, because, again, this is a game of the trenches, moving guys backwards, opening things up for your talented backs, and making it difficult for the other team. If you can move guys in front of you, a lot of the game still goes to being physical in the run game, in the trenches. And Georgia absolutely has to get better in both of those departments. They're replacing a lot of guys, a lot of talent, but there's some fast rising talent that I think will rise to the top sooner than later, guys. So I think could be household names for Georgia fans this year. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. The season is right around the corner. Talking season is almost over. It's almost over. Make sure you are on dawgpost.com for the upcoming season. Check us out. We want to get you all over to the website. We've got a lot of great stuff coming. Hope you enjoyed watching the video. A little bit of a rant, but thanks for sticking with me. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next video.